Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and here we are back over at the PS3, but this time around we are giving some love specifically to the PS1 on the PS3. Now, playing PS1 games on the PS3 is definitely one of my favorite aspects of it, and there are ways where you can really just like rip your discs onto the PS3 or even transfer ISO images over and mount them using something such as Webman or Multiman, and I've covered those before. However, many people over the years have asked how can I put some package files up like this and even create my own package files for PS1 games just to install them directly onto the XMB, such as Resident Evil 2 or of course Medieval, some of my favorite games. Well, here I'm going to be showing you all, if you have a modified PS3 running custom firmware or PS3 HEN, how you can take your disc-based PS1 games, rip them to back them up on your PC and create package files to install them on your PS3. It just takes a few applications. You are going to need a computer on hand, a USB drive, and a little bit of patience in order to get started. So of course you also do need a modified PS3 like I had mentioned. This year I'm going to be using my PS3 Super Slim with HEN on it, but you can use custom firmware or PS3 HEN. With all that understood, let's go ahead, grab a USB drive, grab our disc-based game, and move over to our computer, as well as having a disk drive in order to rip that game. Now for this here, you are going to need a couple of things. The first thing we're going to be using here is going to be PopFE, which as it mentions here is Pop Station Fetcher, and it states here that this is a tool to automate the process of converting PSX disk images and install them on various platforms, including Vita, PSP, PSIO, PS2, PS3, RetroArch, and the PlayStation Classic. Now this does quite a bit, and really what we're covering here is one specific functionality, but hopefully this should help you all get started. And if at any point in time you are wondering what kind of support there is, you want some more information on certain flags and such on here and features, this thankfully has it all covered if you check out the default README on this linked down below in the description. In order to download this though, you will need to scroll up to the top, go over to the releases section for PopFE, and we're going to download the latest build of PopFE UI. Just download it and save it somewhere you can easily find it. Now the next thing you'll need here is ImageBurn in order to back up your own discs here. Now I'm going to be using this, and if you want to use another application, that is totally up to you. I'm going to be using ImageBurn because it's free, easy enough, does the job great on Windows. I'm going to have a Softpedia link down below in the description in which you can click it, click on download now, download from the Softpedia Mayor, and you should be able to download the executable and install it like any other application. In order to get our discs backed up, you will need a disk drive, and you'll just need to pop your disk into that disk drive. For my first example here, I'm going to be using Wipeout. So I already have it installed and set up. I'm going to go ahead and open up ImageBurn, and if you've never used it before, it'll look something like this, in which you can click on Create Image File from Disk, give it a few moments to spin up here, and once it's able to detect, we can set the read speed to maximum, and we're now going to need to pick where we want to save our file to. So click on this folder right here, go ahead, find somewhere you can easily find your image, and we can create a new folder for our game, and I'm just going to call this one Wipeout because, well, this is Wipeout. Go into here, and by default, it's going to save it as a bin file. So we can go ahead, save that, and once that's saved, click on this button, give it a few moments, and it's now going to rip the disk from our disk drive onto the computer. Now once that's been ripped over and we exit out of it, we can go ahead and go into our folder, and you can see here I have Wipeout, which it shows a bin and a Q file. We're going to need both of these here, but I also want to demonstrate this with a multi-disc game. So if you have a multi-disc game, you're just going to rip each disc the same way, and for that example, I have backed up Legend of Dragoon. Make sure they do have different file names per disc here, but you can just put all the bins and Qs into one folder, such as this. Now that we have our games ready to go, let's go ahead and fire up PopFE UI. In order to do this, you will need to extract it into its own directory. So I'm going to right click this. I'm personally going to use 7-zip and extract it into a PopFE UI directory. Once it gives you a directory, go ahead, open this up, and now we're going to fire up PopFE PS3.executable. Double click this, it's going to bring up a command prompt window like this, and then shortly after, it's going to bring up an actual UI window, which this is exactly what we need. Now we just need to work through this here. Let's go ahead and work on Wipeout, which is going to be pretty simple because it is just one disc-based game. So for here, we can click on this under the disk section, navigate over to wherever you've saved your games. Let's go ahead, go into Wipeout, and grab the Q file for Wipeout. give it a few moments to populate. Make sure you are also connected online, and check this out. If done properly, it's actually going to do all of this here for you. And the cool thing is too, you can change the title and it can actually pull some background audio as well too from a YouTube video, and it does a lot of this by default, but this here is just the automatic portion, so it's able to populate this and make it look really nice pretty easily. You can also change the themes here if you want to, but I already like how this looks, so I'm just going to keep this here by default. So now that we have everything set up here, you can also tweak these settings if you so choose to. So you can disable any of like the pick 0, pick 1, sound 0. You can make it look as nice or as basic as you want to. You can force NTSC or PAL. I'm actually going to force NTSC since this is a NTSC copy of the game. If you're doing a multi-disc game, the enable disc swap is going to be important. And this here is force PS1_new emu. Now I did a little bit of looking around for the different emulators for the PS1. And in short here, there's about 3 emulators for the PS1 on the PS3. New emu, just because it's newer doesn't mean it's going to be better for your game. This was actually designed for a small handful of games. So really, unless you're using a game that is recommended to use new emu on, you really don't need new emu. Now we can go ahead and pick where we're going to save this to. So click here for the directory, and I'm going to save this out to the PS1 folder. So I'm going to say select folder, and now we can change this. I'm going to call this one Wipeout PS1 to PS3, something like that is just fine. And once you have this all set up the way you like it, you can click on Create Package. Now it's going to look like it's frozen and not responding, but if it is, don't panic. You can actually look at the command prompt window, or I guess, well, the window for Python right here, and you can see right here it's actually working. So this is pretty nice at least, but go ahead and just wait for this to complete. And as you can see right here, according to all this, it has been finished, and you can check out right here, this is no longer frozen. So we can now click on clear if we want to do the next game. But if you check this out, as you can see, I now have my Wipeout PS1 to PS3 package file. This actually popped up on my other screen, but it will even bring up a little pop-up right here saying finish creating package, and we can click on continue. Now in order to do a multi-disc game, again, you can hit clear, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on this, go to Legend of Dragoon, and you have to insert them discs 1 through 4. So for the first one, we're going to insert disc 1, give it a few moments, and you can see it was able to populate everything beautifully. So there's that. We're going to grab disc 2, which we're going to do the same thing, grab the second disc, same thing with disc 3, here we go, and the last one is going to be, of course, disc 4. Now if you want to change the title, you can. If you want to set the sound 0, you can. I'm actually going to hit try to find audio here. It was able to find one by default, and if you want to check what the audio is, you certainly can. But you can now do the same thing here. The same directory is going to be fine. But for the package file, I am going to change this to Legend of Dragoon, something like that. And for this, we do need to change this up a little bit. So I'm going to still keep force NTSC, but since this is a multi-disc game, I'm going to change enable swap disk. Just check that there and make sure it is enabled for any of your multi-disc titles. Once that's all done, we can now do the same thing. Click on Create PKG. If you look in the background right here, it's going to do the exact same thing. So it's going to grab all of our discs right here, 0, 1, 2, 3, as you can see, and now start working on creating that. Just like before, give this a few moments here. It's also worth noting this might not be perfect 100% of the time. You can see here it did fail to download the background music right here, but that's okay. I don't necessarily need that. Was kind of just wanting to demonstrate it here. Either way, it's now creating the package file, so you just need to wait a little bit for it to cook up. All right, so the exact same thing here. As you can see, this has all been completed, so we can click on OK. And now at this point, everything else is cleared, so we can go ahead, close out of this, and go ahead find our packages. So you can see here, I've got Legend of Dragoon, I've got Wipeout. Now we need to get these transferred over to our PS3. Now there's a few ways of doing it. If you want to do it over FTP, you certainly can. I'm personally just going to be using a USB drive. So of course, as usual, if you have a PS3, you probably know about this already, but your USB drive must be MBR and FAT32. Once you have that all set up, you can grab your package files, right-click, copy them, and I'm just going to paste them onto the root of the USB drive. And here we go. Now that this file copy is complete, we can go ahead, come back out here, right-click, eject the USB drive, and take it over to the PS3. Now, just like installing any other package file, if you have custom firmware, you'll need to go to the package manager. But if you have PS3 HEN, if you have not activated HEN, go ahead and take a few seconds to activate it. And once it has been activated, you can now go to the package manager, install package files, and as long as your USB drive has been inserted and is recognized, go to standard, and you can see here the package files are showing up. Just like any other package, go ahead, tap the X button on there, and wait a few moments for it to install. And with that one completed, we can exit out and do the exact same thing with our other game, which is going to be Wipeout. So just like before, go ahead and install this package. And here we go. Now with this one completed, we can exit out and you can check them out right here. We've got a couple of games. These are the ones that I had on disc. So there's Wipeout. As you can see, here is Legend of Dragoon. Now, in order to fire one of these up, all you have to do is highlight it and hit the X button and let it load in. And check it out, we have the nice, lovely Seka logo and everything, which means that this was able to boot up properly. Now, we were able to get the game loaded in and such, and just so you all know, if you want to change any of these settings, you can press the PlayStation button on your controller, and here you can change things such as assigning the slots, change your controller settings, any other settings here such as the screen mode if you want to change it to either normal or if you want to change it to full screen. You can disable or enable smoothing, and you can just do, anything else here such as resetting the game. We'll go ahead and exit out here. Let's just at least run through this so we can make sure that this does run and work. Now, as you can see, it took a bit to load in and such, but you can now see here that we were able to get the game up and running and working, and it is playing as well as a PS1 game would. Now, do keep in mind, if you did try to fire up the package file and you got any errors related to either renewing the content or licensing, that usually means that your system has not been PSN activated. For those people and those systems, I will have a link down below in the description to a video showing how you can activate your system using Apollo Save Tool. It just takes a few moments to do, and once you do that, you should be able to launch your package files. However, with all that, let's go ahead and exit out of this game here. So I'm going to go here, and actually it's at the top, quit game. Say yes, and we'll go ahead and fire up the second game. The second game we're going to launch here is Legend of Dragoon, so this one's a little bit different because it is a multi-disc game. But just like before, you just need to highlight it, fire it up, and wait. And here we go, classic game right here. We were able to boot this up, get it working, and it is running perfectly fine here, thankfully. Now, I'm not going to go into the main gameplay on this, however, I did want to bring up this example because this is a multi-disc game. So when you get to a part in a multi-disc game where you have to swap out discs, at this point you'd press the PlayStation button on your controller, go down to the Switch Discs option, tap the X button, and from here you would choose which disc you need to swap over to. So there you go, that is how you can end up doing that. For this, we are going to go ahead and quit out of this game because it is working. So here we go, we are back at the XMB, but you can now see at the end of this video that we were able to take both of these disc-based games, back them up, be able to repackage them into package files, make them look beautiful on the PS3, and have them run and working right here. So that's about how all that works. Anyways, I do hope this helped you all out, and keep in mind, this is not going to be strictly limited to stock games like this. You can also use this for your patched PS1 games, ROM hack PS1 games, translated games, and more, really as long as they're going to be compatible with the console itself. Either way, that is about it for this video here. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too. But as I always say, this is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone.